All right, welcome to the Krug Show, everybody. Hope everybody's having a great day. Happy Tuesday, January the 20th. That's right. We are 20 days into January. That's how fast January rolls by. Had a couple days to watch the film, had a couple days to talk to the players and kind of decompress and relax and get a little more perspective and all that crap. No, I'm just kidding. But we're going to get into it. We're going to get into a little roster. We got a great week for you on the Krug Show. We have a certain Hall of Fame quarterback that's going to be stopping by later in the week. Really excited about that. We won't tell you exactly what that's going to be or when until we know for sure, but we're efforting on that front. But we're also going to talk today a little bit about this roster, where it stands. Just kind of the first look-see at the Niners roster. What it looks like, where it's going, who's available, what this offseason could look like, coaching-wise, player-wise. We're going nitty-gritty. Nitty-gritty! Let's go! Off and running. Welcome to the 49er off season of 2026. The season has ended. I am back from Seattle. I wish I was going to LA. But instead, I'll be watching Seahawks Rams like everybody else on the tube. Rooting for both teams to lose and lose famously. Man. Hope everybody's having a happy January the 20th. Kind of a foggy Tuesday here in the East Bay of Northern California. First, before we get rolling, I just want to say we've had an unbelievable year. As a channel, I'm very happy with where things are, where things have gone. I'm very appreciative of the people that helped me out when I initially started this channel. And I'm really appreciative for all of you. So before we get into any Niner stuff, I just wanted to say, hey, to you guys, the audience, my good friend Bob Fitzgerald used to say, without you, we are talking simply to ourselves. And there's a lot of truth in that. There really is a lot of truth in that. So thank you to everybody who supported the channel. Thank you to everybody who supported our efforts from practice reports and training camp. I mean, let's be honest, guys. There's only a few of us who do this year round. There's people that are seasonal and they cover the Niners from beginning of the season till the end of the season. But there's only a handful of us that literally grind it 365 days a year. And so, I just want to say, one, it's a labor of love. It's not work. It's my passion project. So I really am thrilled to be here talking to you guys each and every day. I'm so absolutely thrilled with where we're at as a channel. We're sitting today at 66,016 total subs, and they're all real. We haven't bought one. We haven't tried to buy one. We would never buy one. So if everybody could hit like and subscribe as we get rolling in the off season, I would appreciate it. Maybe you've watched a lot of shows, but you've just actually never subscribed. It doesn't cost anything. It's free. But if you hit like, more people find the stream in the algorithm and more people watch. So right now we just started a couple minutes ago, 4 minutes ago. We have 265 people, 270, and the number's going up. It'll continue to go up. If everybody who joins, if everybody could hit like, that the algorithm favors us, and then, more people find the stream. So it's really as simple as that. So if you could just take a second, and everybody who's watching right now, if everybody could hit like, that would be awesome. Now, if you hit subscribe and you click that notification bell, every single time we go live, you'll just get a little alert on your phone. Once again, it doesn't cost anything. It just alerts you that we're going live, and you don't have to miss a minute of the action. So just want to say thank you to everybody who helped us get to 66,016 subs. I can remember when we had one. was like, hey, we got a sub. Hey, we got 100. We got 1,000. And now here we are, 66,016. I'm humbled. I'm thankful to all of you guys, to the people who helped me initially, the Grant Cones of the world. Thank you, Grant. I always thank him when I see him. I don't always thank him. I'm not a nut, but I thank him a lot because he did help me get down this road, and he kind of showed me the way, and I appreciate him. This channel right now has 2.7 million views for the month. So I'm very happy with that. If we can get to 2 to 3 million views a month, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. We have over 280,000 watch time hours just in the last 4 weeks alone. And we've picked up another, 1,100 subscribers in the last 4 weeks alone. So thank you to all of you guys. I really, seriously, I know there's lots of people that come up to me and be like, Krug, thank you. And I just want to say, hey, thank you back. Because, this is a lot of fun, but it's a community type thing. And if you don't want to be around people, this isn't for you. You know what I mean? Because this is what we are. We're about talking to the fans. We're about talking to the faithful, whether you live in the Bay or whether you live in a different continent. I mean, it's always cool when people are like, hey, man, I watch it. I'm in Denmark. It's like, whoa, really? It's like, that's awesome. That's incredible. I can't tell you the number of people that I ran into in Philadelphia and Seattle who were like, bro, let's take a picture. Let's hang out. I mean, it's like, so the growth of the channel, the impact of the channel, I can't thank, I've got to thank Kev, my oldest son, who I love so much, and I'm so proud of him. And he's just such a smart kid. And he's one of the reasons this channel has taken flight to new heights. And so thank you, Kevin, for all that you've done to help us grow this channel. And I've had people come up to me in the last month and be like, dude, you're the TikTok guy. I'm like, what? I'm the TikTok guy? But yes, thanks to our new division of TikTok at the Krug Show, we're making more TikToks than ever, and we're getting more and more traction than ever before, where actually people think that that's who I am. You're Mr. TikTok. So anyway, thank you to all of the people that have a hand. And this is a group effort, man. I will say this. There is nobody who's doing this by themselves. And if they are, they're a maniac, because there's a lot to do, right? You got to host these shows. You got to book these shows. You've got, I'm doing a ton of things. I'm traveling back and forth to Niners. And then you've got to edit everything, and everything's you've got thumbnails and, SEO and all the different things that go into it. And then putting it on all the different social media platforms. And thank you to Blue Wire for their association with us. And thanks to Borna and the good people with him that have helped us, sell advertising on the show. And thanks incredibly to our sponsors, Pig and a Pickle, my first sponsor, Damon and Mary, the owners of Pig and a Pickle. Thank you, Damon and Mary, for all that you've done to help me grow my channel and hopefully subsequently, grow your business as well. But I think I've only had just a minor. I think your food is what sells you more than anything than me yelling Pig and a Pickle. But it's been a great marriage between Pig and a Pickle and the Krug Show. So 2 locations, Emeryville and Corte Madera, a third on the way. And I'm very proud of that, third on the way in Petaluma here in 2026. So they're open 7 days a week, great barbecue. Thanks to my good friend Rob, who's the owner of Claudaddy Arcades, who sponsored our trip to Philadelphia. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, Claudaddy Arcades. Great follow on Instagram at Claw_Daddy_Arcades. They've got locations in San Diego, LA, Palmdale, Visalia, Fresno, Modesto, Capitola. Thanks to Sharp Corner, Sports Cards and Collectibles. The great Anthony Catania is a big fan of the show. He's at 831-521-5264. Sleeper, thanks to Sleeper. Thanks to Plank Oakland. Just thanks to all of our sponsors who have helped make this a very successful year. All right, let's get into something that none of us wanted to be discussing right now. We wanted to be discussing, are the Niners going to beat the Rams in the NFC Championship game? But that's not the way this thing came down. And the Seahawks handed the Niners a loud, resounding, you're not good enough message. So that was sent loud and clear. And so they're better, they're younger, they're faster. and they're probably going to win the Super Bowl at Levi's in a couple of weeks. Maybe not. Maybe Drake May gets it done. Maybe the Rams pull an upset and the Rams get it done, but nonetheless, it won't be the Niners. So we thought let's do a roster review. Let's just get into, we're just going to go right down the list and get into what this offseason is going to look like for the 49ers across the board. Now, Robert Salah, for those of you who are, maybe some people turn it off. Like, they lost, I'm turning it off. If you turned it off, you've missed some of the news, which is that the updated coaching carousel is as follows. The Giants have hired John Harbaugh. The Falcons have hired Kevin Stefanski. The Dolphins have hired Jeff Hafley. The Titans have hired Robert Salah. So that's where the offseason gets rolling for the Niners. They lose their defensive coordinator. They may wind up losing some other defensive coaches with him. It will be interesting to see if Robert takes any of Shanahan's defensive coaches, because a lot of those guys, were there before Robert came back. So it would be kind of interesting if they went with Robert Salah. Who's going to be the next defensive coordinator? We'll talk about that. The available jobs still are Cardinals, Ravens, Bills, Browns, Raiders, and Steelers. The Steelers and the Raiders have both interviewed Clay Kubiak for their offensive coordinator position, and I think he's going to get one of those jobs. I think Niner fans ought to prepare themselves for Clay Kubiak getting a job. He's a play caller. He runs the offense that's most popular. He's got a twin brother that's doing incredible things as well, which is undoubtedly more validation, right? It's like any candidate. How good is he? Well, his twin brother, who's very similar, is doing really, really well too. So maybe there's no accident that Clay Kubiak is a good coach. To me, the fact that he's got a twin brother that's also doing really well is just another statement that he's legit. So I don't know where he's going to go, but I think he could definitely go to the Raiders. He could definitely go to the Steelers. I don't know who the Cardinals are going to hire, but they often seem to like 49er coaches and 49er players. Guys who get cut from the Niners roster often wind up in Arizona. We've seen that. I mean, from Quantrez Knight, you name it. I mean, it seems like in recent days they've picked up a lot of ex-Niners through the years. So I could see Arizona looking at the 49ers saying, yeah, let's get Clay Kubiak. Let's we need to get better. We need to jump somebody in our division. How do we jump somebody in our division? Well, we'll get better and we'll make the 49ers worse. And then maybe we'll get out of the cellar and they'll be in the cellar. So if you're Arizona, I think they might be thinking that way. So now who do you want as the defensive coordinator? I think it's a decision that's already been made. I think it was a decision that was made long ago, like last year when they hired Robert Salah. They brought in Gus Bradley. And Bradley, has been here. And I think the whole plan was Robert's going to be here for 1 year, and then he's going to leave. And I think Shanahan, looking at the list of, he's had Steve Wilkes, he's had Sorensen, they've had a bunch of different defensive coordinators. And I think they'd like a little bit of continuity, which is why I believe they went about it last year by not just hiring Robert back, but also bringing Gus Bradley along as well. There was no need for that, right? Because Robert Salah had already been an NFL head coach. He didn't need a senior lieutenant to hold his hand through this thing. So there was always like, well, what's Gus doing here? Gus was when at the end of the year, when Robert leaves, he slides into the defensive coordinator position and you have continuity and you don't have to go, spend a week interviewing guys and think about changing your scheme. Do we go to a 3-4? Do we dump the wide 9? What about Chris Kasarik? What about our other coaches? So, he has been the Niners assistant head coach. People are like, well, he's an older guy. What? He's 59. He's 59. I like how 59. Marv Levy coached when he was like 80. And now a 59-year-old coach is like, oh, he's too old. And I just feel like 49er fans, just because Gus has been behind the scenes, they may not understand what he is as a coach. I mean, wasn't a great NFL head coach. He was 14-48 as a head coach. But this guy's been a really good coach. I mean, he started his coaching career. He was a safety and a punter at North Dakota State, went to high school in Minnesota, then was a GA, grad assistant at North Dakota State, then was a defensive coordinator, linebacker coach at a tiny school called Fort Lewis College, then came back to be the DC at North Dakota State and was the assistant head coach, then jumped to the NFL in 2006 with Tampa Bay as their linebacker coach, and then became Seattle's defensive coordinator. So he's been a DC. The job that he's up for right now in 2026, he did in 2009 and 10 and 11 and 12. And that's when Seattle had their Legion of Boom with Cam Chancellor, Earl Thomas, Brandon Browner, Richard Sherman. And then he became so he was the linebacker coach, or he was the defense coordinator of the Seahawks 2009, 10, 11, and 12. Then the Jaguars hired him in 2013 to be their head coach, but they didn't have any stability, and he didn't have a great run there, as I already gave you his record. So that was 2013 through 2016. 2017, he goes to the Chargers as the defensive coordinator. He was the Raiders DC in 2021. He was the Colts DC in 2022, 23, and 24, and then to the Niners. So, I mean, this is a guy who's widely respected. And his son was a Niner backup quarterback for a little while last year. Carter Bradley. But, Gus Bradley's a really good coach. And I've heard people like, well, just anybody but Gus Bradley. I'd rather have this guy or that guy. And it's like, really? I mean, Gus Bradley how many of these defensive coordinator candidates have been head coaches before? How many of them? I mean, I've talked to a lot of the Niner players this year, and to a man, they're like, they love Gus Bradley and believe in him and feel like he's taught them an awful lot. And there's great wisdom there for sure, an incredible experience. So I would just go with Gus Bradley, and I got no problem with that. I don't think that would be in any way a disappointing hire by the Niners. But other people want other candidates, and I do understand, the desire for some of these other candidates. Jim Schwartz is a former NFL head coach who's coached the wide nine, and we saw Shanahan and Schwartz after the Browns game, or before the Browns game, conversing a little bit. So who knows? If you really love your wide nine, and the Niners love Kasarik, and they've drafted their defensive line around that wide nine, get up the field, penetrate concept, then maybe Schwartz is a good fit. Some people have suggested Brian Flores. He's a very good defensive coordinator, kind of a blitz happy guy. I don't know his contractual situation in Minnesota. I've heard some people say his contract is up. But I think continuity is going to rule the day. And I think Gus Bradley, because the Niners are looking at this team and they're going, wait a second, we need to build up our entire linebacking core. We need to build up our entire wide receiver core. We need to make significant changes on both our offensive and defensive lines. We need to bring in, some franchise-altering skill position players. We're going to have a lot of turnover. We're going to need some continuity. And I think they're going to stick with Brant Boyer, who Salah brought with him as the special teams coach. And I think they're going to stick with Gus Bradley. Now, other people were saying, hey, how about the Texans defensive coordinator, Matt Burke? He was calling plays this year for Houston. So, I don't know if they could even get him. I mean, you can't take a guy away if it's a lateral move. You have to give them a promotion. So you'd have to, I guess, make him the assistant head coach or something like that. But obviously his defense was awesome. But I mean, a lot of that, I think that awesomeness has a lot to do with the fact that they have great personnel. Can he bring Will Anderson? Can he bring Danielle Hunter? Can he bring Azeez Al-Shaair? Can he bring Stingley? Can he bring Lassiter? Can he bring Petrie? I mean, that's why that defense is so good. There's a lot of talent there. So that's an interesting name. So, we're gonna find out exactly, what they're gonna do at the defensive coordinator position. Shanahan and Lynch speak on Wednesday, and I'm sure we'll probably get some clarification at that point right there. The Niners, by the way, will not receive draft pick compensation for losing Robert Salah because he did not stay 2 seasons. That's the rule. If he had stayed one more year, they would have been eligible to get a 3rd round compensatory pick in the following draft after he departed. I was a little surprised that he took the Tennessee job, but I'm not surprised that Tennessee offered it to him. Borgonzi was the general manager there, or is the general manager there. A lot of people thought he'd go with Matt Nagy because they both were in Kansas City. But I think he was looking to kind of, not necessarily lean on Nagy. And I think after watching, the coaches this year do it, Mike McDonald, Mike Vrabel, I think it's a copycat league. And I think there were a lot of teams that said, hey, give me a defensive coach. Give me a defensive coach. Maybe he can turn things around quickly like we saw in New England and with Seattle. So then, Robert Salah had great things to say about Cam Ward. Some people think Cam Ward's not very good. I actually think that Cam Ward's pretty good. Now, rookie quarterbacks rarely look good. He sure talked him up. I mean, he was talking about what a great player he was when the Niners played the Titans. So I'm sure Robert Salah was thinking about, Cam Ward and having him. He's also got Jeffrey Simmons to lead that defense, and supposedly got on the horn as soon as they announced it in a conference call with those guys and talked to them. The Titans are also projected to have over $100 million in cap space. They have a new stadium on the way. He officially gets a 5-year deal, according to Adam Schefter. So, there's a lot. There's a lot to a lot of reasons that he took that job. And so I just think ultimately I think it's going to come down to the Niners want continuity. And my guess is they will announce Gus Bradley as the defense coordinator and will not open it up to some, exhaustive search. Gus this year was in charge of red zone play design, and the 49ers performed really well in the red zone. They had the number 14 touchdown rate versus the number 24 overall defensive EPA. So, 24th is, let's say, where the defense sat, but in the red zone, which was Gus Bradley's responsibility, they were 14th. And just listening to Demo Lenore and Jair Brown and some of the DBs who worked with Gus Bradley, they had great things to say about Gus Bradley. So, I mean, if you think about the Niners, why is continuity a big deal? Well, 2022, you had D'Amico. 2023, you had Steve Wilkes. 2024, you had Nick Sorensen. 2025, you have Robert Salah. I mean, 5 defensive coordinators in the last 5 seasons. It would be nice to have a little continuity. And I think Shanahan and Lynch were thinking of this last year when they brought Salah back. They're like, wait a second, we're going to bring Salah back. He's going to do nice things for us. They were, I'm sure, were dreaming the Super Bowl dream. And then he's going to be highly coveted and he's going to be hired away. And it didn't necessarily go that way, but he actually made their defense look really, really good, despite how bad the talent was with the injuries. And so sure enough, the same thing that they envisioned happened. What didn't happen exactly how they envisioned it, but basically it was the exact same thing, which is that he was here for 1 year. He was, highly coveted, and he moved on. So it's really as simple as that. And I do think continuity is going to be kind of the buzzword that they're going to use to hire Gus Bradley. And all I would say is that, just because there are people out there that they respect somebody who works for somebody else more than they respect the people that work for them. I think that's more of a you problem than, you know what I mean? Some people just, it's like some people, organizations reward internal candidates, but a lot of them are like, well, he was already here. How good could he be? Why don't we go get somebody new? And it's all like, so what? You have greater respect for candidates outside the building than candidates inside the building? Is that what it is? Because Gus Bradley's got a better resume than many, many of these candidates that people have thrown out. A lot of people have suggested Raheem Morris. Go get Raheem Morris. That he would be terrific. So as I said, I think they're going to go with Gus Bradley. I think it makes sense to go with Gus Bradley. And, the pass rush on defense has to be a major, major priority. You got to fix that pass rush. 20 sacks, 20. Bosa a couple of years ago had 18 and a half by himself. Now the team had 20. It wasn't just last in the NFL. It was last by a fucking mile. I mean, it was unbelievable how crappy they were at rushing the quarterback this year. 24.7% pressure rate, 29th in pass rush win rate. I mean, obviously getting Bosa back is going to help. Hopefully they can bring Huff back. Hopefully Mikael Williams comes back. He should be ready, he said, by training camp. But they still need more. They still need more. They need difference makers up front. And to me, the line of scrimmage is absolutely pivotal. Absolutely pivotal. Got to get better in the line of scrimmage. All right, so that's the first topic, is Robert Salah. Robert Salah is gone, and I think Gus Bradley's going to be the guy. Now, there's lots of people that are like, anybody but Gus. And I'm like, okay, but what do you know about Gus? I mean, I personally think Gus is a really, really talented guy. Plus, I think it's ideal for continuity purposes that he knows the talent. What happens if you bring somebody else in from outside and they don't know the talent? You're going to spend a month or 2 or 3 or whatever figuring out which guys you like and don't like, which guys fit and don't fit. This way, you got a guy who knows right away how the contracts sit, how everybody fits together. He had an up-close look at this defense, and to me, I think that's valuable. And I'd stay with the plan. I'd go with Gus. All right, let's move on to the quarterback. And we get people, Schwartz is better than Gus. I don't know what's that based on. I mean, he wasn't good as an NFL head coach either. So he had a hell of a pass rush. He has Myles Garrett, okay? He's got Myles Garrett. Something tells me that has something to do with the fact that he's got a good pass rush. I don't think Schwartz is a terrible hire. I mean, don't get me wrong. He fits the Niners scheme. It was not like that would be like a bad decision. But is it better than the continuity that you get with Bradley staying? I don't know. I would say probably. I think these things are relatively even. It's not like Schwartz is some defensive monster who's won all kinds of Super Bowls and champions. We're not talking about Buddy Ryan. We're not talking about the greatest defensive coach of all time. We're talking about just a guy who's in Cleveland with a great line. Denzel Ward was a high pick. JOK was a high pick. Myles Garrett was the first pick in the draft. I mean, he's got some big-time talent on that defense. So it's not like Schwartz. Oh, my God, Schwartz can turn water into wine. Really? He's got the best talent there is, probably. So, I understand, and then there are people that are like, I don't like the wide nine. I don't believe in the wide nine, but I think the Niners do. And I think Kasarik is, the one thing I can say about Chris Kasarik is that I felt like he got the most out of his defensive line all year long. And by the end of the year, his guys were playing, all of them were playing their best football. And to me, that means that he's got their attention. He's a good teacher. They get better. I go face to face with all these defensive linemen, and they'll swear to a man, whether the camera's on or not, that Chris is awesome and he's a great coach, and that they've learned so much about their position through Chris and his staff. So I definitely think the wide nine is here to stay. Definitely think the wide nine is here to stay. So then it's about who can you bring in that's not going to change your scheme, not going to fire your D-line coach. They like Johnny Holland. They like Daniel Bullocks. I think they like their defensive staff. Where they need help is the players. They need better players. But I think they're going to side with continuity. All right, let's talk quarterback. And obviously we know the situation. Brock Purdy has been given a big contract. And I think probably the biggest positive that came out of this year was that Brock Purdy cemented himself as the franchise quarterback. He had the turf toe, and how would he return? And he's not going to get rid of it all year. And, and instead he came back and he played awesome. He played absolutely fantastic football. And by the way, if you're one of these guys that's blaming Brock Purdy for their loss, then you need to watch more football. I mean, and you need to understand that the quarterback, the hardest thing to do is to evaluate the quarterback versus what's going on around the quarterback. So, but Brock Purdy's your starter. And now you have Mac Jones. Mac Jones told us that he wants to be traded. He didn't come out and rudely say it, but he says, I believe I'm a starting quarterback and I want to be a starting quarterback. So he wants out. He wants to be traded. The Niners don't have to trade him. They have him under contract next year for a very reasonable amount. And when you factor in how he played, it's really reasonable. So part of me would say, oh, well, you got to consider your options, but let's not even pretend. They're not going to keep Mac Jones as the number 2 quarterback on this team against his will. They're not. And he's made it perfectly clear he'd like to be a starting quarterback. And it's perfectly clear that there are teams that could use him and need him. And it's also clear that the Niners actually need to use him to get a good chip or two to help their rebuild, to accelerate their rebuild. So as good as Mac Jones is, I won't entertain the idea of him coming back for next season because he told us yesterday he's a starting quarterback. And he didn't need to tell me that. I mean, I knew he was a starting quarterback. Now, you're not just going to give him away. I understand that. He's an asset. He's an asset that you own. And you're under no obligation to help anybody get good except for your own team. So you don't have to trade him, but you do. Because you don't want to hold him against his will. You don't want him to be unhappy. You're not going to waste his career. We're not going to, what is this? Jonathan Kuminga situation? We're going to waste your career, but we're not going to play you. We're going with Brock, and he's our guy. But you're our insurance policy, and our insurance on our starting quarterback is more important than you resuming, your playing career. I don't know. I think that's hardball. I don't think they're going to play hardball. So Mac Jones is going to be traded. And if you kept him next year and he walked away at the end of the year in free agency, you'd get a 3rd-round compensatory pick. So you're going to get more than a 3rd-round compensatory pick if you trade him right now. Why? Because you're giving the team that he goes to a starting quarterback that's experienced and ready to roll, and you're also giving him a starting quarterback at $7 million, which is, $15 million beneath market value for any, reputable starting quarterback. And it's maybe even more undervalued compared to what he actually is, which is, I think Mac Jones is a really good quarterback. So you're going to trade Mac Jones, and then the question is, who's in your quarterback room next year? Well, Purdy's going to be your 1 for sure, right? We know that. Curtis Rourke, just talked to him yesterday. He's going to be there as well. They also have Adrian Martinez on the practice squad, and they really, really like Adrian Martinez. So I would say Purdy, Martinez, and Rourke are going to be your 3 quarterbacks. Now, they may go after a veteran reclamation project quarterback to be that number 2 and kind of push Martinez and Rourke into a kind of a competition for the 3rd spot. That could happen. They could look at the free agent market, and let's take a look at what it looks like. This is what the free agent market currently looks like. Here are the quarterback free agents. This is Spot Track. These are available quarterbacks, unrestricted, only unrestricted. Daniel Jones, no. Aaron Rodgers, no. Russell Wilson, no. Mariota, that's an interesting one. But he's 32. Zach Wilson, I bet you Zach Wilson after Darnold and Mac Jones would probably play for free to be in San Francisco under Kyle Shanahan. That's the name, Zach Wilson, that I could see them going for. And I know a lot of people hate him, but, so what? People hated Darnold before he came here. People hated Mac Jones before he came here. Everybody said those guys couldn't do it. And then they came here and proved that they could. And now Darnold may win a Super Bowl, and Mac Jones is on the verge of becoming somebody's starting quarterback. So the Niners, some people see things as they are, and some people see things as they potentially could be. The rest of the free agent quarterbacks, Tyrod Taylor, Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, no. Garoppolo, no. Trubisky, no. Keenum, no. Trey Lance, no. Josh Johnson, no. Brandon Allen, no. Carson Wentz, no. Malik Willis is not a bad name, but I would say no. Kyle Allen, no. Teddy Bridgewater, no. Brett Rippon, no. Gardner Minshew, no. Skylar Thompson, no. Sam Howell's interesting. He's got a pretty good arm. He can run. So, I mean, there's a couple of interesting guys there in Howell and Willis. Younger guys who haven't, busted out yet that might want to come here and, save their career. So you got a couple of young guys there, and then you've got Zach Wilson, and I think Wilson, as I said, he was in Miami this year. I think he would do anything probably to come to the 49ers. So that's the quarterback market. It's nothing really that special. Now let's look at the draft, and we will take a look at what the draft quarterbacks look like. And here they are. Let's see. There we go. Here's the list of quarterbacks, okay, in the upcoming draft. And they're probably not going to have a huge, they're not going to invest. I mean, Fernando Mendoza's going number one. These first-round picks, forget it, right? So Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson. I'm looking at this list. Carson Beck is interesting. A lot of people think he's a mid-round pick. He can really sling it. Completed a high percentage of his passes. He's interesting to me, Carson Beck. I saw Nussmeier from LSU in person. Nope, don't like him. The rest of these quarterbacks I'm not a big fan of. Cole Payton is kind of interesting from North Dakota State. 6'3", 230, pretty good athlete. He's an interesting guy for sure. Haynes King is an interesting guy. I think once upon a time a 5-star recruit out of high school, went to A&M, transferred to Georgia Tech. Finished up strong this year at Georgia Tech. 6'3", 215 pounds, runs in the 4.4s. So Haynes King would be interesting as a flyer. Cole Payton, Haynes King, go further down the list. I just don't see anybody. I don't see anybody there, and I watch a lot of college football. It's not a stellar year. Yeah, I mean, Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt is too small. Klubnik from Clemson, some people like him. Trinidad Chambliss had a great playoff run, but he's a developmental guy. It's in the draft. It's not a great draft for quarterbacks, but Carson Beck in the mid rounds, Cole Payton in the late rounds, Haynes King in the late rounds, maybe an undrafted guy, to bring in to compete. But yeah, I look at it and I go, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Niners pass on Zach Wilson and just go with what they got, which is Curtis Rourke, Adrian Martinez, and Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy as your 1. Maybe Rourke as the 2, and Adrian Martinez as your 3. Save some money. If they're going to bring a 4th guy in, I could see it being, as I said, Cole Payton, Haynes King. Those are the guys that I would consider. So that's quarterback. And I really do think at quarterback, the 49ers are likely to just go with Purdy as your 1 and Rourke and Adrian Martinez. I think that's what they're going to go with. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, man, that's a gamble. Purdy missed a bunch of games this year. Yeah, but, if you're going to spend – you've got huge needs across the board. Huge needs. You got to rebuild your entire linebacking core. You got to rebuild your entire wide receiver core. You've got to somehow give yourself an interior offensive line that doesn't get their asses kicked by Seattle. So they're going to have to remake their line. They need obviously a ton on defense. Number 1 corner, number 1 rusher. I mean, they need foundation pieces. Great players that they're going to need to find across the board. You got this guy saying Carson Beck. Yeah, I mean, Carson Beck would be on my short list. Carson Beck, Haynes King, those two guys for sure, but the Niners can't afford to spend even a mid-round pick on a quarterback, maybe any round on a quarterback. They probably just need to just maybe sign somebody as an undrafted player. They could go for a Mariota or somebody like that who's pretty good kid and he's not that old, but that my guess is that they're going to feel good enough about Rourke and Adrian Martinez to just be like, hey, let's spend our money elsewhere. So that's quarterback. That's where they're at quarterback-wise. All right, let's move to running back. You got CMC, and it's awesome that you have CMC, but what realistically can you expect from CMC coming off a year where he had 400-plus touches? There's going to be a residual impact of all those carries. That's just a fact. There's no way around that. He's not going to have 400 totes or 400 touches and then just be able to run it back with some awesome year, as he's in the twilight of his running back career. I think it's just asking way, way too much. And I'm going to, maybe I'm going to be a little harsh in this because this is the end of the year and I'm going to be very real about this roster. The Brian Robinson trade was stupid because you didn't use him. And why would you even acquire a guy like that if you weren't going to use him? And they didn't use him. So, that was a fail on the part of the coaching staff. You didn't use him at all. Barely used this guy. He was a starting running back. You traded a draft pick to get a guy that you're not going to use just for insurance purposes. Not smart. Jordan James really looked good at the end of the year, and I would have loved to have seen him do more. I still have a lot of questions whether or not he's got, the heart to be a great player. I mean, the way he covered that Rashid Shaheed 95-yard return, it's like he was, jogging at on a treadmill at 24-hour fitness, getting his steps in. It's like, where's the urgency, bro? You're down there first. You jogged by him like it was nothing. It was the fucking playoffs. He's an all-pro return guy. I need more urgency. I'm sure Boyer saw that and flipped out. I'd love to see what Brant Boyer actually said when he watched the film of Jordan James just kind of, I don't want to say lollygagging, but just he got down there first, but then he just kind of did this little, it's like he's like a car that couldn't turn or something. It was like he had no ability to close down the space and attack Shaheed. Let Shaheed just go. I mean, it looked awful. But he's, a running back that they invested a 5th-round pick in. They like him. He looked quicker than McCaffrey. They need more backs. They need more dynamic weapons. Period. I mean, that's just across the board. They need more dynamic weapons, and running back is no different. So the good news is running backs are kind of easy to find. Isaac Guerendo, another guy, trade candidate. I mean, when you don't trust this guy, what's he doing? What are you doing? Why is he on the team? No more roster spots for guys that can't be trusted. If you can't trust them, cut them. If you can't trust them, trade them. Everybody on the team has to be trusted. If you're not a trusted agent because you fumble or don't know what the hell you're doing, then you need to be gone. And Guerendo, somebody's going to want Guerendo. Go find somebody. There's a number of GMs out there that fall in love with 40 times and measurables. Go find that guy and send him Guerendo and get a day 3 pick. Or get somebody who's the equivalent of Guerendo at another position. Hey, we really like this guy, but he's not, they found that with Keon White. They found a guy who they really liked, good attitude, good athlete, was in the wrong scheme. And he's been way better here than he was in New England. Keon White was a really nice addition. He played pretty well. So go find that. And flip Guerendo for that guy. Or just cut him. He's a fourth-round pick. You've screwed up a fourth-round pick. So what? You've screwed up a lot of other picks. So that's the running backs. They didn't have a single running back on their practice squad. If we look at the running back free agent market, which I really don't anticipate the 49ers investigating, but I'll show it to you. And you can see for yourself. This is what the running back market looks like as far as Spot Track is concerned. These are guys that are unrestricted. Najee Harris is a Bay Area guy, but he's slow, really slow. I mean, if you want to use him as a fullback, if you want to use him as some kind of jack of all trades, maybe he's your wildcat snap guy. I could see Najee, who's a Bay Area guy, who's probably going to take a very favorable contract at this point. I could see them. I wouldn't mind having Najee, even though he's not the speed back they need. The rest of these guys, Eckler, Etienne, Javonte Williams had a good year in Dallas. He's probably going to want to get paid. Rico Dowdle had a good year in Carolina. He's probably going to want to get paid. Breece Hall's interesting. He's got 4.3 speed. He played at Iowa State. He's only 24. Kenneth Walker's a free agent. But, I mean, these guys are going to get paid. A guy like Kenneth Gainwell might not be bad. He's 26. He's a versatile back. He's a winner. He's tough. He's competitive. That's an interesting name. Probably that's the best name. You see Brian Robinson on this list. Patrick Taylor's a free agent. Isaiah Pacheco, God, he's way down the list. Ty Chandler's not bad. Tyler Algier. Gainwell would be interesting because he can do a lot of things. He's kind of a trusted back. He's kind of a winner. He's always just like one of those guys that's always outplays what you think he's going to do. He was better than you thought in Philly, and he was better than I thought, at least in Pittsburgh. So that's an interesting one. Kenneth Gainwell. If you could get a guy like Kenneth Gainwell, maybe you do that. Maybe that would be, something that would interest the 49ers. It would have to be a bargain type situation, but I could see a guy like Gainwell being popular with the 49ers. All right, let's stop sharing the screen there. And I do want to take a look, though, at the rookies. Here are the rookie running backs in the draft. Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame's tremendous. He's probably going to go in the first round. Some people saying he's going to go in the top 10. Come on, that would be an overdraft. But I really like him. Really like Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame. But you're not going to invest that high of a pick in a running back, nor should you. Jonah Coleman is interesting. Really power package running back from UW. Really like Jonah Coleman. 5'9", 230. Probably going to go in the second round, maybe third round. Katron Allen from Penn State's a great athlete. 5'10", 220. Real explosive. Jadarian Price from Notre Dame. Good running back. 5'11", 210. Really like him. Nick Singleton from Penn State. They're saying is going to be kind of a mid-round back. 6 feet, 225, 4.3 speed. He's got a ton of talent. So all those guys are interesting, but they're too high on the list. If the Niners are going to go for a back, it's probably going to be a day 3 back. I'm going to give you some of the guys that I really like running back-wise. Emmett Johnson from Nebraska. Love Emmett Johnson. Runs hard, redshirt junior, breaks tackles. Really intriguing. Le'Veon Moss is an interesting athletic player who you can throw it to him. He played at A&M. He's a little bit of an injury concern, but really good player. Jam Miller from Alabama, 5'10", 220, really strong lower body, had some injuries this year. Jam Miller, though, is powerful, explosive. I think that's a day 3 running back that I would like a lot. The guy that I like the most is this guy, Mike Washington Jr. From Arkansas, who started off, I think he's transferred a couple different times, just finished at Arkansas. But he's a slasher. He's 6'2", about 230 pounds. Really like Mike Washington. They list him here at pick number 227. He's going to go before that, but I would say he's definitely a day 3 guy. Definitely a day 3 guy, and probably my favorite running back that I've seen so far, Mike Washington Jr. Jamal Haynes from Georgia Tech is a day 3 sleeper, interesting player for sure. And there'll be more guys. Jay Knott played at Cal. He's interesting. So those are the backs that I like. I mean, I'll expand my horizons for some other backs as we get closer to the draft. But Mike Washington Jr. in the mid rounds, Jam Miller from Bama in the mid rounds, Emmett Johnson from Nebraska, 3rd round, 4th round, in that range. Nick Singleton, if he falls because of whatever reasons. I mean, he's intriguing. So there's some good running backs, and they need a dynamic guy. They need another starting back, not a special teamer, not a guy who's a part-time guy, not a guy who's like, we like him, but we don't love him. And they need an explosive mover who can start. You add a Mike Washington in the mid rounds, and you have Christian coming back, and maybe you find another back. Maybe in free agency you sign a Kenneth Gainwell, somebody like that. And I think you're good to go. Zamir White might not be a bad choice as well. Loved him at Georgia. He's kind of gotten caught up in a numbers game and caught behind Ashton Genty with the Raiders. Zamir White is talented. So maybe you go for a veteran back that you like as a complimentary piece. I don't see them signing a big name veteran back, but and then you go in the draft and you find somebody in the mid rounds. I think that's the plan at running back. That's how I'd plan out running back. All right, let's get to wide receiver. And this is a problem. Now, this is a major problem. We have a major issue here. And I'm going to share the screen on the Niner depth chart. You guys can take a look for yourself. They got nothing. They got absolutely nothing. You got Jawan Jennings, who's got a gigantic opinion of his self-worth as a player, thinks he's worth $20 million, has Drew Rosenhaus. Yes, in an ideal world, you get on the same page with Rosenhaus, you bring JJ back. He's your leader. I think they probably will find a way to bring him back because Shanahan loves him and Lynch loves him. And Shanahan literally told me in Philadelphia that Jawan Jennings is like, he has no more respect for any player ever than the respect he has for Jawan Jennings. So I think the Niners want to bring him back, but if he wants $20 million a year, bro, there's the door right there. They ain't giving him $20 million a year, and they shouldn't give him $20 million a year, and they shouldn't even get close to that. And if they give him $20 million a year, that's negligence for a receiver runs 4.77 who never is going to be anybody's number one. And just because you like his toughness and his personality, you're going to pay him north of $20 million in a cap sport? No. Can't do it. So what else you got? Okay, Ricky Pearsall is glass. Always hurt. I had somebody with the Niners tell me that they think Ricky's going to be traded in the offseason. I'm just sharing what I've been told. So what do you have? You got Ricky who's hurt all the time. You have Jennings who's probably not worth the money that he wants. Bourne's a free agent and is old and runs slow. Sky Moore's a free agent and is just a return guy. Can't pay him big money. Cowing couldn't get on the field. Watkins couldn't get on the field. Do you notice that it's a wide receiver less wide receiver room? There's no wide receivers. What do you have? You have Demarcus Robinson. That's it. That's what you have. If Pearsall is going to be dealt and you're not going to re-sign JJ, you got nothing. You got absolutely nothing. And what Junior Bergen? He's not NFL. Malik Turner? He's not NFL. Not as a starter. Might be an NFL special teamer. So you got nothing. You got absolutely nothing at wide receiver. The franchise that had Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Terrell Owens, at one point Randy Moss in the twilight, they don't have a wide receiver. It's not like they don't have great wide receivers. They don't have any. So wide receiver is a major need. Now, this is a problem because this is the bust-rich position of all time. There's all kinds of wide receivers that bust. It's really, really hard to be a wide receiver in the NFL. It's much more complicated than it is to be a wide receiver in college. So here is the free agent market at wide receiver. And you guys can take a look. Do you want these guys? You want Mike Evans? He's old. You know, he's going to be 33. He's played 11 years. He's a great player, but he also makes a lot of money. You want Christian Kirk? At least he's got vertical speed. Debo, fat and old? No. De'Ami Brown? No. Tutu Atwell, I've always loved, but, you know, he's fragile. You can't pay him. He made $10 million. The Rams paid him $10 million this last year. He didn't do anything. $10 million. Thielen retired. Hollywood Brown is always hurt and kind of a sideshow. Then you got JJ, made 5.9. Wants his salary probably tripled. And then what? You got Khalif Raymond, Rashid Shaheed. After watching Shaheed, I wouldn't mind Shaheed. You know, at least you could say goodbye to Sky Moore and go sign Shaheed away from Seattle. But really, you're going to spend big money on the top tier return man when you have, you know, going to buy Rashid Shaheed in free agency would be like you own a house and you just spent $2,500 on a brand new mailbox, but you don't have a roof to your house. Yeah, dude, it says Kruger and it's got a gold thing and it's beautiful. This thing is a fucking gem. This is one of the most beautiful mailboxes you've ever seen. Oh, roof? No, we don't have a roof. No, I hope it doesn't rain because otherwise we're all going to get wet because we don't have a roof. But, dude, have you seen our mailbox? It's the best mailbox in all of Contra Costa. Nobody cares, bro. You have no roof on your house. You have no windows on your house. You have foundation issues on your house, and you're spending $3,000 on a fucking mailbox. That would be signing Rashid Shaheed. So now, DeAndre Hopkins is old and done. Dortch is just a guy. The rest of these guys, Keenan Allen's old. He's 34. Jahan Dotson might not be a bad addition. He hasn't really, made it in Philly or Washington. He has good ball skills. He's only 26. That's an intriguing name. As far as he's got a future. To me, the guys are further down the list. Wan'Dale Robinson. I think Wan'Dale Robinson was basically a really great receiver who wound up on a team with a really shitty quarterback. And so they never threw him the ball. But Wan'Dale Robinson, if you watch college football, was awesome at Kentucky. And he's 25. And he doesn't make a lot of money. So I would be all over Wan'Dale Robinson. All over Wan'Dale. A lot of people love Alec Pierce. I do too. I'd be all over Alec Pierce. In fact, the way the Niners wide receiving core looks, it's not like should they hit it in the draft or free agency. They should hit it in the draft and free agency because that's how barren it is. But those are the guys I like. Alec Pierce, Rondale Moore is not bad as a gadget guy, as a speedster, if he hasn't lost all the speed with the injury. Wan'Dale Robinson, solid receiver. Who else is on this list? Anybody at all that's interesting? Oh, Romeo Doubs. In fact, if I was wagering on which receiver the Niners would sign, it would be Doubs. He went to Nevada. He's played in the same system. He's got good ball skills. He's only 25, going to be 26. He made $1 million this year. Green Bay is not going to sign him. They got a ton of other receivers. He's absolutely going to leave. I think Romeo Doubs, if I was like wagering, we're going to wager on this, bet on a player that's going to be a Niner. Romeo Doubs. I'm betting Romeo Doubs. So that's the receiving core. There's a lot of donkeys on this list. Gunnar Olszewski and, Tyler Lockett's old. Dwayne Eskridge is a bust. There are a lot of busts. But if you go look through the crap, you'll see Romeo Doubs and Jalen Tolbert might not be bad. He's kind of relatively young. I wouldn't mind having Sky Moore back, but not for any kind of real money. Alec Pierce, I'd be very interested in. I think Alec Pierce would be ideal. Pierce and Dobbs would be ideal. And Wan'Dale Robinson. Pierce, Dobbs, and Wan'Dale Robinson. Those are the free agents that I'm looking at. The rest of these guys, no, not interested. Pierce, Dobbs, Wan'Dale Robinson. There you go. That's the wide receiver core. Those are the wide receivers I'd be interested in. All right, let's take a look at the draft wide receivers. Now, every year in the draft, there's a ton of receivers because the college team is become, everybody runs the spread. So you've got every year there's, so many receivers. And this year is no different. Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, stars, going to go in the top 15. Too rich for your blood. If I could have one guy just across the board on this list, I'd take Carnell Tate. I mean, the way JSN looks, the way the Buckeye receivers have played, how well they're coached, how tough this kid is. He's got strong hands. He can run. He's really a solid player. So Carnell Tate, if I could have any of these receivers, I'd take Carnell Tate. But Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, Mekhi Lemon from SC, Denzel Boston from UW, probably Kevin Concepcion once he runs a killer 40 time. These guys are all going in the first round and probably in front of the Niners. So who are the Niners going to be looking at? Well, there's Chris Bell from Louisville, who's a lot like Terrell Owens as far as he's big and strong and fast. But he also he's coming off a knee injury. And I think he's coming off surgery. So you got to do some investigation. He's kind of an injury, I don't want to say damaged goods, but he's probably not going to be ready for training camp. So you need receivers that are ready to roll. But Chris Bell from Louisville is one of my favorite receivers. The kid that you saw last night for Indiana, Elijah Surratt, really solid receiver. My favorite receiver, probably with Chris Bell hurt, is Jeremy Bernard from Alabama. And I was talking to Matt Miller, the ESPN draft guru, and he's like, man, Jeremy Bernard would fit the Niners system perfectly. So I agree. Now, he's more of a second-round pick than a first-round pick, and he may go between where they pick in the first round and the second round. But I really like him. He's got size. He's got strength. He's got a run-after-the-catch ability. He makes big catches. He shows up, and he'll make catches all over the field. He can operate in the middle of the field. He's just a playmaker. Jeremy Bernard is a really good player. Zachariah Branch from Georgia is a burner. I mean, if you're really looking for that explosive receiver, he's 5'10", 175 pounds. He's tiny. And I kind of worry about durability. I'm kind of done with these guys, these like burner guys that they go from college to the pros and then they get hit one time and they're hurt. Like 2 hits and they're on IR. So Zachariah Branch, if he stays healthy, is a home run hitter. Big play guy, awesome talent. He might not even be my favorite Georgia receiver. Georgia's got a bunch of receivers. There's other guys. Omar Cooper from Indiana is a good receiver. I'll be interested to see what Malachi Fields runs for the stopwatch. He started at Virginia. He transferred to Notre Dame. He reminds me a lot of JJ. He's a lot like Jawan Jennings. He will go up in a crowd. He'll catch it. He's got great hands, super terrific ball skills. Malachi Fields, I just think he's going to run 4.7, 4.68 or something like that. And so he's probably going to be more like a day 3 guy, maybe even a late round guy because he just doesn't run well. The sleeper guy is Georgia State's Ted Hurst. And small school guy, and there's always a huge transition to jump from like an FCS level school to the NFL. But go watch Ted Hurst, and you can see the gifts that he has. He is a tremendously gifted wide receiver. I think he's probably going to be an early late day 3 pick or late day 2 pick, end of the 3rd round, early day 3 pick, beginning of the 4th round. Ted Hurst from Georgia State. He's real. He's real. There's other guys here as well. Chase Roberts from BYU is interesting. Trey Lance's brother, Bryce, is had a great career at North Dakota State. He's an interesting player. Nick Anderson from LSU's tall athletic receiver. Noah Thomas, the A&M transfer who's at Georgia, is 6'5", 6'6", kind of more of a finesse player, but he's an interesting player to watch. So there's always a lot of receivers, but there's always a lot of busts. To me, one of the sleeper receivers is Georgia's Dylan Bell, who kind of reminds me a little bit of Deebo Samuel. He's 6'1", he's 210, he's got kind of a thick lower body, but you know what? He makes catches, he's athletic. It seems like the bigger the game, Dylan Bell steps up and plays absolutely huge. So those are the wide receivers. Then there's also slot receivers. And slot receivers, my favorite is the guy up top here, Deion Burks from Oklahoma. He's 5'10", 195 pounds, but he's a terrific receiver. Deion Burks, go check him out. Really, really good player. Love him. And, one other receiver that's not listed here is Cole Wilson. Cole with a K, plays for Baylor. He's a burner. He's a return man. Let's see. Maybe they might have him here listed as a return guy. He's a really dynamic returner. Very, very dynamic. I mean, this guy is like 2 steps and he's gone. Cole Wilson. He's kind of frail. He's not the biggest player you're ever going to see, but he's an exciting return guy. So receiver, they're going to have to get aggressive. I would say Romeo Doubs, come on down. And then you got to go find a guy or two in the draft. And you may have to make a trade as well. A.J. Brown's available. Do you want him? I mean, I wouldn't, just because it seemed like he was just a mess in Philly, but maybe it's personal. Maybe it has to do with Sirianni or some situation in Philly. Maybe he'd be happy if he just left Philly. He's big, strong, and fast. There's no question. You need to make plays down the field. You got to have some receivers. He definitely would help. He definitely would help. So, I mean, that's wide receiver. And wide receiver is a position where they're going to have to remake the entire deal because they just got absolutely nothing at wide receiver. All right, let's move to tight end. Let's go to tight end. And obviously you've got George Kittle out for the year. And I know he said, I'll be back early. You can't bank on that. You cannot bank on George Kittle coming back at the beginning of the year. So you don't know what George Kittle is gonna do, but you can't bank on him. And so let's take a look at the wide receiver market as far as free agency is concerned. I mean, I thought the Farrell signing was very disappointing. Very disappointing. I was not impressed by Farrell at all. He's a blocking tight end that, I don't know, he seems like okay as a blocker, didn't seem great. Not much of a receiver. Tonjes is a nice receiver, but he can't really stand in line and block. To me, this might be the area where I would go away from the draft and lean on free agency. There's a couple names here that are really interesting. Okay. Obviously Kelsey and Njoku and Dallas Goedert, those are the guys up top. I think Kyle Pitts, who was a blue chip player at Florida, and then was drafted really high. He's now in his 4th year. He's only 25. This guy is about to play some amazing football. And to me, this would be a great get if you could get Kyle Pitts and plug him in. Because Kyle Pitts in this offense with Brock Purdy throwing him the ball could be prolific. He could be one of the best players in the league. He could be an all-pro tight end. I think I'd have a lot of interest in Kyle Pitts. I have interest in Adam Troutman, who played at Dayton and went from the Saints to the Broncos with Sean Payton. I think he's an interesting player for sure. It's kind of a slim pickings at tight end if you look at the free agent list. A lot of guys. Robert Tonyan's interesting. He's kind of been around the block. You could get him for nothing. Cade Otton is a really good receiving tight end for Tampa Bay. Isaiah Likely is a guy that I would definitely go after. The Ravens tight end. He's young. He's a big-bodied guy. He can do a little bit of everything. He can block in the line of scrimmage. He can catch in the red zone. I mean, if I couldn't, Pitts would be my first target. But if I can't get Pitts, I will go for Isaiah Likely, and I would feel pretty good about Isaiah Likely. I think he's really good. So those are the free agents. Okay, now we'll stop sharing and we'll show you the draft and what the draft looks like. And the draft's got some interesting tight ends as well. Kenyon Sadiq for Oregon is a freaky athlete. I mean, you have a hard time staying with this guy. 6'3", 235, really jacked up, very powerful. Kind of reminds me a little bit, I don't know what he'll work out like, but he reminds me body type of Vernon Davis. I mean, he's just a blue chipper. He's yoked. He's strong. He's fast. He's real. Oregon gets some crazy athletic guys. This guy is really, really good. 235 pounds, so he's not the most dominant inline blocker. He's more of a move tight end than anything, but this guy could do it all. The guy that I really like is the Vanderbilt kid, Eli Stowers, who's probably going to be a second-round pick, and I think he's your plug-and-play, receiving tight end. I think if you're looking for somebody to step in and start, and you're looking for I think Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt could be a really good option. Michael Trigg from Baylor is an intriguing athlete at the tight end spot. So that's another interesting name. Justin Jolly from NC State's a great athlete. And he's a really good tight end. The Stanford kid, Sam Roush. Now, I don't think he's special by any stretch. He's not Zach Ertz, and he doesn't have the receiving ability of like, some of those old school tight ends, Kobe Fleener, but he's 260 pounds. He can block. I think he would be a very good day 3 pick for the 49ers, Sam Roush. I ran into his parents at before the big game, and, good people, and this kid's tough. He's smart, obviously Stanford. He can block, he can catch a little bit. He's not a dynamic he's not going to stretch the seam or anything crazy, but I really do like him. If there's a sleeper tight end in this draft, there's a couple that I really like. One, and we'll update this as the draft season gets really rolling. But Eli Raridan, the big 6'7", 6'8" receiver or tight end from Notre Dame, I think Raridan's got a real high-end potential at the next level. Marlon Klein from Michigan. Michigan always produces some pretty good tight ends. Klein's 6'5", 250, pretty tough. RJ Maryland from SMU is a really interesting tight end as well. He can move, he can catch. So there's some interesting players there. Probably my favorite, probably the way I would roll with this is see if I could sign Isaiah Likely or Pitts, and then in the draft, see if you could get a Stowers or maybe a Sam Roush in the later rounds, somebody that can help you. Now, we'll see. Sometimes there's like a small school tight end that steps up and really impresses you in the draft process, and we'll see how that goes. But tight end wise, that's what you're looking at. And I think they got to find somebody. Now, let's get to the offensive line, because this is another area for the 49ers where they need to redo this thing. I mean, don't tell me about, PFF's numbers. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Kyle Shanahan told you what he thought of his interior offensive line when he ran wide and passed on 4th and 1 and 3rd and 1 instead of running it up the gut. Because look at what Seattle has and look at what the Niners have. And it's night and day. I mean, you can't, this might be the biggest problem that the 49ers have, is that the Seahawks have built themselves just an absolute monstrous defensive front with real powerful, talented guys. I mean, Leonard Williams is one of the strongest guys in football. He's 6'5", 310. He's athletic. He's fast. He was the first pick overall. He's really good. Great signing by John Schneider. And then they drafted Byron Murphy out of Texas, and Byron Murphy is 6 feet, 310 pounds, and fast. So he's like the sawed-off version of a interior player, but then he's also got great quick feet. Jerron Reed is a house, strong as hell. They even have a fourth guy in Notre Dame's Riley Mills, who they made inactive. But believe me, if he had been a Niner this year, he would have been playing a lot. So their defensive front, DeMarcus Lawrence, Uchenna Nwosu, I mean, they've got a big-time line, but the real problem is the 49ers interior can't move these guys, so they can't run in short yardage. They can't run between the tackles. And you look at this Niner offensive line. What are you going to do? What are you going to do with this offensive line? Here is the Niner depth chart. We all know what it is. Trent says he's coming back for another year. Says he feels like he can play a number of years. Okay, that's great. Burford's a free agent. So, the way seems like offensive linemen get plucked. I mean, we saw Jalen Moore get like $15 million a year. Aaron Banks got tons of cash. So get ready for Spencer Burford to be dramatically overpaid. And so he's gone. He's going to leave. They're going to lose their starting left guard in free agency. So they don't have a left guard. Brendel is their center. They claim they love him, but they obviously don't love him because they didn't try to run behind him on 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1. They realized they can't. So he's a major liability. You got to have a bigger. He's 285. He's a pumped up guy at 285, 290. You need somebody stronger. I would have gone for Nick Frazier a couple years ago that went to Pittsburgh instead of Ricky Pearsall. I was calling for Frazier, whatever. They got to get a new interior. I mean, they need you got Dom Pooney, and he's your starting right guard. McKivitz and Pooney and Trent are staying. But you've got to change out Burford and Brendel. You've got to find a new interior offensive line. You think Jake Brendel's going to be better and more powerful and more explosive next year? When he's 34, he's going to be better. So, I mean, yes, I get it. He had a nice little run. It gave them a couple good years. 1 year he was a Pro Bowl alternate. This year he graded out okay. He's efficient. He makes some good decisions, blah, blah, blah. He doesn't move anybody in the run game. You can't run in the A gaps because this guy can't move anybody. And this is a major problem because the Rams D-line is good and the Seahawks D-line is good. And you can't give away the inside run. You're Kyle fucking Shanahan. You got to run the fucking ball. All right? You're never going to win the Super Bowl if you have to be some gimmicky trickster guy in short yardage. You have to be able to run the football. So you need a new center. You need a new left guard. Burford's going to be paid more than he's worth. Brendel is not nearly the player that PFF claims he is. They need help. They need serious help on the offensive line. And it's really in the interior. It's guard, it's center. They got to find some offensive linemen that can step in and give them more pop in the run game. They can't be, we're going to run wide on 3rd and 1 because we don't have an interior. Our interior is just going to get their lunch handed to them. So that's just the bottom line. They have to do better. On the offensive line. Now, let's see what it looks like. What's out there? Who's out there on the offensive line in free agency? It's not a great group of guys. Great offensive linemen don't get to free agency. It's like it just doesn't happen. I'm looking at this list. Braden Smith is a right tackle. He could play a little bit inside. There's Joel Bitonio, from Cleveland. You might have to pay him. He's big and physical. I don't know if he can move well enough, but he's big and physical. Tevin Jenkins is a gigantic drive blocker who hasn't quite ever fulfilled potential with Chicago or Cleveland, but he's a big drive blocking offensive lineman with some strength and some power. Will Hernandez, who played for Arizona this year, is 30. He's one of the broadest offensive linemen you're going to see. He's just a huge, broad, wide body guard who, he's hard to get around. The old saying, he's a $5 cab ride to get around him. You got Ben Barch, who's still there. If you want Ben Barch to come back, he's never healthy. I don't think you can really lean on that. There's just not a lot of guys. There's just not a lot, so this is going to be a problem. And then if you look at center, it's not a whole lot better. There's Linderbaum, but, you're going to spend big money for Linderbaum. He's going to be highly coveted in free agency. He's a terrific player. He would be an upgrade on Brendel for sure. I'd go with Linderbaum. But, the rest of these guys, there's not a lineman there that you go, oh, yeah, they're get that guy. I don't see it. So, once again, you're going to have to get into the draft and figure out your offensive line. And you need tackles, you need guards, you need it all. So this might have to be one of the high picks that they have. They may have to invest a real high pick in this interior offensive line. Here's the draft guards. Now, the kid Ione from Penn State, and that's not how you pronounce his name. I don't have the correct pronunciation. Ola Ione, that's not how it's pronounced. But he's a house. 6'3", 350, huge, tough guy. Emmanuel Pregnon from Oregon is, you'd have to see this guy to believe him. Just an Adonis, 6'5", 320, but kind of ripped. Guy really looks the part of a dominating guard. He wears 75. You can catch him if you watch Oregon film. Big, powerful guard. Chase Basantis for A&M. They had a really good line. And both these guys, both their guards, Armaj Reed Adams and Chase Basantis, they're both, big road grading behemoths, 6'5", 330. Basantis might not be a bad pick in the second round. Probably my favorite guard is this guy, Keelan Rutledge from Georgia Tech. ACC player, very athletic, tough, will play to the echo of the whistle, real violent. I really like him a lot. He's a good player. That's a guy that's looking to kill people. So Keelan Rutledge, they list him here at pick number 179. So he's a mid-round guy. I think he's probably going to go in the third or fourth round. But that's a guy that I'd be all over. Keelan Rutledge, really like him. And then, there's other guys down this list. Fernando Carmona from Arkansas, 6'5", 320. Kind of like him a little bit. There's a number of interesting guys. The Michigan kid, Giovanni El Hadi, I think is an interesting prospect. So those are some of the guards, all right? Now, the Niners really need to invest in their future tackles because, as we said, there's no Trent beyond what? At some point he's going to be going away, and you got McKivitz, and McKivitz can play center. By the way, if you had to move him to center, you could probably move him to center. It's a great tackle draft, okay? And these are the tackles out there in the draft, and I think you got to invest in these guys. Francis Mauigoa from Miami was awesome last night against Indiana. I think he allowed like one pressure all night. He was terrific. He's huge. He's powerful, but he's probably going to be a top 10 pick. Spencer Fano from Utah is also going to be a top 10 pick. So you're not going to get those guys, but it's that next group. Caden Proctor, Caleb Lomu from Utah, Isaiah World from Oregon. I'm a huge fan of Jennings Dunker from Iowa, he's got a mullet. He's just this barrel-chested behemoth and Iowa really coaches him up well. I really love Jennings Dunker, probably going to be a second-round pick. Austin Barber from Florida, really long arms and talented. I love him. He's going to be like a second-round pick. Caleb Tiernan from Northwestern. Northwestern, coaches it up really well. Probably a third-round pick. 6'6", 330. Carter Smith, who played last night for Indiana, I think is going to be a really good NFL lineman. Third-round pick. Blake Miller from Clemson's a good player. Now, there's always sleepers, and there's always guys that are just great deals. I like this guy, J.C. Davis. He went to McClymonds High School in Oakland. He played for Illinois. He's 6'5", 320. He's got long arms. He's pretty athletic. He's tough. And he's going to be a day 3 pick. To me, that's a steal. J.C. Davis on day 3 of the draft is going to be a steal. That's the one that really stands out. Now, there's a couple others that I really like. Notre Dame has a developmental tackle named Emil Wagner, who needs to put on weight, but he's very athletic. He's smart. He's intriguing. 6'6", 300 pounds, maybe 295, but he's got the ability, he's got the frame to put on a lot of weight and to really look good. And so that's pretty much it. I mean, there's some other guys I like as well. But we're going to have to see what they look like at the combine, and really who grades out highly. But offensive tackle, you're going to have to invest in an offensive tackle. Austin Pleasance did a decent job, in a pinch, but they're going to have to invest in an offensive tackle for sure. So that's pretty much the offense, right? You've got, we hit it all there. Wide receiver, tight end, running back, quarterback, offensive line. We have a pretty good feel right there for what it's looking like. All right, let's do this. Let's hit a couple of these supers and tell you that the Krug Show is brought to you by our friends at Sleeper. That's right, 49er football season is presented by Sleeper, the fastest growing fantasy platform in the world. It's a one-stop shop. You get blazing fast news, real-time stats, group chat, season-long leagues, and, of course, Sleeper picks for daily fantasy. Use promo code Larry, and Sleeper will match your first deposit up to $100. Links in the description. Terms and conditions do apply. And thanks to Sleeper for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right, let's hit some of these supers. We've got X-Man 095, member for 3 months. I always give a little clap for our members. He says, since we are number 27 in the draft, would you use this year's first or trade back? I got to see who's there. But we'll take a look at that. In fact, why don't we take a look at that right now? I'll take a look at that right now and give you a better idea of what, and there's different websites for all these different things. The ones that I kind of like, Draft Tech is a great one to look at, like the whole, each position, and all the different prospects. Tankathon is a good one to look at for the mock draft. So in their mock draft, and I'll show it to you guys here. We'll put that away for just a sec. Hit the wrong button. Look at me hitting the wrong buttons. You got to hit the right buttons. If you can do this, you got to hit the right buttons. Okay, share screen. There we go. Here is the mock draft from Tankathon. And it has Fernando Mendoza going number 1, which to the Raiders. Arvell Reese going number 2, which, I think there's a chance that the Raiders could go Arvell Reese if they traded for Mac Jones. The Cardinals going to Ruben Bain. Now, here's an idea. If the Cardinals are desperate for Mac Jones, and I've heard talk that they are, what about offering Mac Jones and the 49ers first-round pick for that Cardinal pick at the top of the draft and take Ruben Bain? Yes, you would be giving the Cardinals Mac Jones and your first-round draft choice, but you would also be trading up from the end of the first round to the top 5, and you would be getting your hands on Ruben Bain. And Ruben Bain just looked amazing in these playoffs. I mean, Miami lost, but it wasn't because of him. My God. 6'3", 275-pound edge rusher, 9.5 sacks this year. Ruben Bain, Bain and Bosa, it even sounds right. You got your killer bees off the edge with Bain and Bosa. It's worth a phone call. Definitely worth a phone call. So they've got Carnell Tate and Jordan Tyson going 4 or 5. Wow, really high. They got the first offensive tackle going 6. Caleb Downs. They got Jeremiah Love, the first running back, going 8. Maui Goa going 10. So the 49ers are down here at 27. What should they do with this pick at 27? I'm looking at this list. Emmanuel Pregnon goes right in front of them. They have the mock draft has them taking Caleb Lomu from Utah. I don't think I would go there. just looking at this list, I mean, Caleb Lomu, Caleb Banks, who's a big defensive tackle from Florida, Casey Concepcion, who's going to run a great 40, very fast receiver for A&M, Akeem Mesidor, who was playing last night, another good defensive end. But of this group, C.J. Allen, I think, is a Pro Bowl linebacker. I mean, he's a better version of Roquan Smith. Very, very solid linebacker. I mean, this guy's going to be a star. I think C.J. Allen. I would probably go linebacker based on this. Let's see what round 2 looks like. Jennings Dunker, I like him a lot. He could be there. Anthony Hill, the linebacker from Texas, is an all-world player, 6'3", 235. Chris Johnson, the corner from San Diego State, big corner. There's Jeremy Bernard right there. You could trade back and go for Bernard. Zion Young's a really intriguing edge rusher from Missouri. He's in the middle of the first round. D'Angelo Pons, who I love, tiny little corner. I don't think he's going that high. They have him there at 49. So it's an interesting group. Danny Dennis Sutton, I think by the time the draft rolls around, is going to be probably a first-round pick. He might be on their list, 6'5", 270, 8.5 sacks this year, crazy athletic ability. Penn State produces a lot of big-time players. So I love these two safeties, A.J. Halsey, a violent hitter from LSU, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, kind of a great cover guy from Toledo. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. I would say C.J. Allen. Based on this, I would probably take C.J. Allen. I love him as a linebacker, or Anthony Hill. I think those are the two best linebackers. Or if you felt like Chris Johnson was a true number one corner, the Niners haven't had a true number one corner in a long time. Maybe you take him. Maybe you trade back a few spots into the top of the second round. There's so much excitement in the NFL on draft night between rounds 1 and 2 and rounds 3 and 4 because they're different days. So it's like you're sitting there all day. You want to make a pick. Well, that's where the teams at the back of the first round can really take advantage of other teams, because you can, sometimes you've got teams that want to trade up. I mean, we saw it last year. John Schneider really thought that Nick Emanwari was probably a mid-first round talent. He was sitting there at the top of the second round, and John's like, hey, let's make a deal. And they made a deal. They brought in Emanwari. Look what Emanwari is. He's going to have to be dealt with for the 49ers for years to come. So, that one, that the end of the first round is going to be intriguing. Joseph Ernberg says, thank you for the great coverage for a great season, Larry. You keep it real every day, and your streams are the high points of my days. Hashtag bye clown man. Did somebody named Clown Man try to talk shit to me? And did I say that? I think I might have said that. It might have been a week or two ago. Somebody was talking trash. Clown Man, I guess. And I said, you're blocked. Bye, Clown Man. Ernberg says, I've been waiting all season for the draft. Can't wait. All right. NFL. Oh, should the Niners interview Seattle, DC? Scheme too different? No, I mean, McDonald is their DC, essentially. I don't think that they need. I mean, I wouldn't choose their DC over Gus Bradley. Mike Kazarian says, F you, Larry, 2026 guest request, Shasky and Dan Soder. I know Shasky, and I could definitely get Shasky. Soder? Who's Dan Soder? I don't know that. I don't know who that is. Maybe you could explain to me who Dan Soder is, and maybe I would then be able to contact him. And I'm not trying to be a smartass. I should I know Dan Soder? I don't know. Dan, if you're out there, I apologize if I don't know you, and I should. But Shasky, absolutely. I love the passion of Shasky, and I can invite him on. Wink SF92. What happened with Renardo's benching? I just think that they're going to trade him. I just think that they felt like his coverage was too soft and that he was too casual and not intense enough, and they sounded him out on the sideline. I felt like they probably felt like he was going 3/4 speed, and they wanted him to go faster. So I told you guys, before the Philly game, I ran into some people in the press box who are in the know on the Niners, and they said to me, hey, Renardo Green, Ricky Pearsall, off-season trade bait. And I kind of like Renardo Green, but obviously he doesn't fit. Allison Ray, gifted 20 the Krug Show membership. Gifted the membership. Now that's awesome. I'd like to know who gifted that to you. Allison, glad you're here. Joseph Ernberg, I wish we got Burden or even Savion last draft. Yeah, Savion didn't do much, I don't think, with Green Bay. May have gotten hurt, but I mean, Luther Burden. I mean, he that's the kind of dynamic weapon that the Niners don't have. I mean, look at the Bears. Colston Loveland, dynamic tight end. Luther Burden, dynamic wide receiver. The Niners need those guys. They need those two guys or somebody that's very similar. Jason, what happened with you and Dieter? Nothing. Or nothing that I know of. I mean, I'm a Dieter head. Oh, as far as why do we not stream last night on a Monday? Just we had a lot going on. So, and I was doing what happened last night was I normally do Niners Nightly from 6 to 7. That's what it was. And because of the national championship game, the program director from KMBR said, hey, would you come on post game and do like 8:30 or 8:30 to 9:30 or something like that? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. So that's why we didn't have our Monday Dieter. And then last Monday we didn't have one either, but we will. And nothing. I mean, unless Dieter's mad at me, I don't realize it. Dieter's got strong opinions. We don't always agree, but I got tons of respect for Dieter and his knowledge and his opinions, and I love the guy. So no, he'll be back. Maybe I'll text him after the show. Nothing happened with me and Dieter. MD says, thank you for your coverage of our team, Damon, Chase, and you really make this season special. I can't wait for your draft coverage. Kind of feel like it's just begun. I feel like the draft coverage just got started today. All right, so we've gone through the offensive side of the ball. We're an hour and 30 minutes in. We're not going to do a 3-hour stream, so let's just go through the defense a little bit right now. Okay, so the 49ers on the defensive side of the ball, it was an interesting year for them because they had, Robert Salah back, and that obviously helped. And they had a lot of young guys, Alfred Collins, C.J. West, Marquise Siegel, Upton Stout, Nick Martin. And, I think in a lot of ways, 4 of those 5 guys really did well. I think Siegel is your starter. I like their safeties. I'm not a Pinnock guy myself, even though I thought it was a decent addition as a veteran who can do some things. But I think Malik Mustafa, Jair Brown, Marquise Siegel, you got 3 pretty good safeties there. Brown, probably better against the run. Siegel, I think potentially is going to be better against the pass. Mustafa, I think, is your best safety. You could definitely use another safety to go with that group. I don't know if I see a superstar there. But definitely I like those guys. I'm not one of those people that are like, you know what? Their safeties are garbage. I personally like their safeties. I think it's not necessarily a bad group. Let's take a look at what it looks like as far as free agency is concerned at that position. Okay, so here are the free agents at safety. And there's some interesting names there. You see Jimmy Ward, but no, he's past his prime. I wouldn't be interested in Jimmy Ward. Who are the names on this list of safeties that I would be interested in? Well, I don't like most veteran players. I mean, I would build like unless I love a veteran player, like the free agency, the only guys you should sign are veterans that you love, because the draft is a cheaper route, and it's just I'd rather go build to the draft unless I truly love somebody. Now, let's take a look at this list. Kevin Byard is a high percentage interceptor. He's interesting because he does pick off a lot of passes. So I've got Cam Curl. I'd be very interested in Cam Curl. I mean, the game that he just had in Chicago was fantastic. That interception at the end Curl's playing well. He's good against the run. I liked him at Arkansas. He's got good feel, good hands. Yeah, so Cameron Curl would be on the list of safeties I'd have interest in. But it's a really, really short list. And I'm looking at the rest of this list, and I don't see anybody that I really like here. Oh, Nick Cross. I like Nick Cross from Maryland. Really like Nick Cross. He plays for the Colts. Jabril Peppers, if he doesn't have any PED issues, would be an interesting name as well. Mike Edwards, I always thought was a pretty good player at Kentucky and now with Kansas City. Kobe Bryant, would not be a bad guy to pick off from Seattle. I think, Kobe Bryant was the Thorpe Award winner in college at Cincinnati and played corner then, but now as a safety, and I think a damn good one. He's had some injury concerns, but he'd be interesting. So that would be the list. I mean, there's a couple other guys. Dane Belton's not bad for the New York Giants. But Kobe Bryant, Mike Edwards, Jabril Peppers, Nick Cross would probably be my favorite. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Except for Cam Curl. I think if I could have one safety in the free agent market, it would be Nick Cross. He's got coverage ability, he can run. I think there's a lot to like there. Okay, so that would be the safety free agent class. Now, as far as the draft class, I mean, one of the best players in the entire draft is Caleb Downs. And he's going to go so far in front of where the 49ers are. So they should just they need not scout Caleb Downs. Dylan Thieneman is interesting. Oregon player. He's all over the field. He makes a lot of great plays. I don't know if he's got an NFL athleticism, but he's a very, very good player at the college level. Kamari Ramsey from SC is a really good player. But I like those. I like AJ Halsey from LSU. He's 5'11", 220. He's a hitter. He's a big time hitter. Where this guy is. And I would like to have one more safety. Emmanuel McNeil Warren would be a great addition as well. Got coverage ability. Played at Toledo. Toledo's had a really, really good couple of years between Quinyon Mitchell, Sam Womack. They produced some good players. I really like Keontae Scott from Miami. Just a big-time playmaker, man. Tough. And, he's really a good player. Really a good player. Genesis Smith from Arizona State is a really good player. Jalen Kilgore is one of my favorite athletes in this draft from South Carolina. 6'1", 220. Hits like a truck. Really, really like him. Really like him. As far as late-round value, Jalen Catalon, who you started at UNLV and then transferred to Missouri. He's 5'10", 205 pounds. He's a thumper, man. He will absolutely knock your block off. Really, really like him. I think he's a fantastic talent. So those are the guys. That's Miles Scott from Illinois, I think is a pretty good player as well. Bryce Anderson from A&M, pretty good player as well. So, yeah, Caleb Downs is going to go top 5. If I could get, one Keontae Scott, they listed as a safety. I think of him more as a corner. But I really love Keontae Scott. I just think he's a big-time playmaker. And I think Kilgore also could be a big-time hitter. Kilgore might almost be kind of like Drake Thomas, where South Carolina had Nick Emanwari last year, and he worked out crazy, right? And South Carolina's got some crazy athletes, and Kilgore's one of them. Now he's 6'1", 220. They list him as a safety, but I'm telling you, he might be able to put on 5 pounds and become a really fast linebacker at 220 pounds. And the Niners may have to think outside the box when it comes to some of the draft picks. And John Schneider looked at Emanwari and said, hey, this guy's a great athlete and we'll make it work. We'll figure it out. That's, to me, that's going to be an interesting one. It's like, where exactly, who can you get at safety? Are they better than the guys you have? And are some of these guys really more like, futuristic linebackers? So that's the safety position. Let's jump into corner. We'll work from back to front here. As far as free agency and cornerbacks in free agency, I think the Niners truly need a number one corner. And they're hard to find. It's hard to find a number one corner. I'm looking at the list. Jamel Dean from Tampa Bay. There's who else? Meek Robertson. He's not truly a number one corner. There's Greg Newsome, who was in Jacksonville, formerly in Cleveland. He's not bad as a nickel. Roger McCreary is an interesting player. He went to the Rams at the trade deadline. There's Josh Jobe from Seattle. Probably my favorite corner is Alontae Taylor, who is a really good player, played at Tennessee, and then played with the Saints this last year. He's 27. I really like him. I think he's going to be a really good player. I like Cam Taylor-Britt, but he had some problems off the field, and I think the Niners will probably steer clear of that because of, they'll steer clear of him because of that. I thought Rock Ya-Sin was a good Niner, and then I thought he played well for Detroit this year. Nashawn Wright from the Bears is a Bay Area kid, played for the late John Beam at Laney College. I could see the Niners showing some interest in him. Jacoby Durant had a couple picks over the weekend for the Rams. I'll say this. If the 49ers go with Gus Bradley as the defensive coordinator, I'll make another prediction. I already said Romeo Doubs. Tariq Woolen, 6'4" corner. Bradley loves big, tall, rangy corners with great length. I could definitely see, Bradley saying, bring me Tariq Woolen, just because he is such a big, long corner. I mean, you're talking about 6'4" with long arms. He didn't look good early in the year, but man, he got better and better and better as the year went on. I think they're probably going to let him walk in free agency. So, corner is, I do think corner is going to be a major need because when you run out of corners, you just run out of corners and there's nowhere to get them. So you gotta, if you don't have corners, you really can't play. And I do think the 49ers could use some more corners. And, the draft is going to be interesting. I mean, there's a bunch of interesting guys. Mansour Delaney from LSU, very intriguing corner. Davison Igbinosun from Ohio State is another big-bodied corner. Damani Jackson was a 5-star corner coming out of high school for Bama. I already told you I like Chris Johnson from San Diego State. I think Chris Johnson is a shutdown corner, really, really good player. Dalen Everett from Georgia is another corner with good size, probably going to be in the third round. I think he does a really nice job. Will Lee from Texas A&M is a good corner. Charles Demings, who played at Stephen F. Austin, I think is a pretty good corner. So there's some interesting names there for sure at corner, and I definitely think that they're going to invest in a corner. Would not be surprised at all if they invest in a corner, because that, even though they've got, you've got guys that you kind of like, right? If you think about the 49ers, I mean, Renardo, I think they're going to move, but you've got Upton Stout, Demo Lenore, Luter, Chase Lucas. That's what you got right now. But you had to sign guys like Eli Apple just to get through the year. So I definitely think corner is going to be a big spot for the 49ers. All right, so we'll stop sharing that. But so I think we've hit almost all of it, right? We've hit corner, we've hit safety. We didn't really hit edge. Let's see edge. The edge rushers, as far as the free agency is concerned, it seems like this is a spot where there's just always guys getting overpaid. There's a lot of overpaid edge defenders. But I could see the 49ers spending some serious money here. You have Bosa, but, man, after Bosa, Mikael Williams is a nice player, but he's an inside player. And Bryce Huff, I like Bryce Huff, but Beal, no. Yatir Gross-Matos is hurt. I do like Sam O. You still have Keon White. So you have Bosa and Huff and Sam Aquinu and Keon White. So you're not totally, it's like the cupboard is not completely bare there. You do have some guys. And obviously, Mikel coming back is going to help them quite a bit. Hopefully Bosa can return and be the Bosa of old. But as far as free agency, this is an area where I do think the 49ers are they're going to dabble. They're going to get into this thing. You got Trey Hendrickson. I've seen some people predict they're going to go sign Trey Hendrickson. I don't think I would sign Joey Bosa. I think to me, he seems like a little bit long in the tooth. There are, this is an instinct-rich position, though. So if you do have some veterans that like Arden Key, I could see being a signing for them. Other than that, Azeez Ojulari's not bad. He's 25 for the Eagles. I think he could be an interesting name. Boye Mafe might be an interesting name, from Seattle. He's got a great first step. He's really fast off the edge. The Niners don't ask their defensive ends and their edge rushers to drop into coverage. Mafe is a go forward kind of a guy only. He can't really exist in any kind of a system where he's not going forward. So, Michael Clemens is interesting from Dominique Robinson's got some talent. Kingsley Enagbare would be a great name. So there's some interesting names there and guys that aren't that old. But of the group, I would say Mafe, is probably the guy that makes the most sense of the edge rushing group. Now let's take a look at the edge rushers in the draft, and we'll see what it looks like. I would say, I love that kid Bain, but he's a super blue chipper, right? Ruben Bain, you'd have to move heaven and earth to get up high enough to get Ruben Bain. But you know what? He's such a difference maker against the pass and the run that it might be worth it. So you got Ruben Bain, then there's Cassius Howell from A&M, who's a little undersized. Niners usually like guys about 270. He's more like 240, 245. So I don't know if he's a good fit. Some of these guys are a little too light. David Bailey, Romello Height for Texas Tech. These guys are in the 240 range. Danny Dennis Sutton and Gabe Yakus from Illinois and Joshua Josephs and R. Mason Thomas. You got 3 or 4 guys there that are probably going right around where the Niners pick. I could see the Niners first round pick being Danny Dennis Sutton. He's 6'4", he's 270, he's got great length, great athleticism, really flies off the edge. Yakus is 275 pounds, also very strong, really like Yakus, Gabe Yakus from Illinois. Joshua Josephs is a lighter guy, but he's very strong. He's intriguing. So Zion Young and Mikhail Kamara are 2 of my favorites as well. Zion Young, 6'5", 265. Missouri had a pair of bookend tackle or ends. He was one of them. Really like him. Mikhail Kamara, you saw him block the kick last night. He blocked a field goal. 6 feet. He's 265 pounds. Just the fact that he's 6 feet tall, he's probably going to go on day 3 of the draft. I really like him. Malachi Lawrence from Central Florida is a terrific talent. Kayron Crawford for Auburn, really intriguing talent. So there's a bunch of guys here for sure, and we'll get a better feel when they go to the combine. Eric O'Neal from Rutgers is probably a day 3 guy that I really, really like. Supposedly the Niners just looked at Michael Heldman from Central Michigan, who had a big year in the MAC, 6'4", 260. I just read that today that they looked at him. Nathan Voorhis from Ball State is an interesting edge rusher. There's a bunch of guys here for sure. And there'll be even more by the time we get to the draft as far as who really, really looks good. But they gotta get themselves an edge rusher. There's no question about that. No doubt. They got to get themselves an edge rusher. Now, they have 2 interior players that they really like in Alfred Collins and CJ West. But what they really need is they need that war daddy on the inside, the 3 technique. So let's take a look at that, because to me that's the 3 technique defensive linemen in this draft there's a number of them that are really interesting. And let's take a peek, because there's a couple guys in here that I think are really intriguing. The three technique. So the Niners have the one technique, right? They've got Alfred Collins, they got CJ West, they got guys that can play the run in the middle. What they don't have is they don't have that interior rusher. They tried, they wanted it to be Javon Hargrave, but he couldn't do it. And they haven't had an interior rusher of note since they had DeForest Buckner. Now they have undersized guys like Mikel who can play inside and Yatir Gross-Matos, but as far as that wrecker, that guy who can play all three downs and be a pass rusher inside, Penn State has a kid named Zane Durant who's 6'1", 290. Really like him. I mean, the movement ability of Zane Durant. You watch this guy's highlight package and you're like, wow, this guy looks like a linebacker. He's moving so well. He really, really moves well. So that's a guy that I really like. And I would say he's probably one of my favorite defensive tackles in this draft. Kristen Miller's good, but Zane Durant from Penn State is one of my favorite guys. Keldrick Falk is going to go high number 1 pick, but man, he is also would be a great fit as an interior rusher. 6'5", 288. Really like him. LT Overton from Alabama is a good player. Anthony Lucas from USC is an absolute beastly player. He can play inside, outside. There's guys like Skylar Gill Howard from Texas Tech. He's kind of a combination player. He's like a little bit inside, a little bit outside. He's versatile. He's scheme versatile. Tyreek Sapp from Florida is one of my favorite players. He's a defensive end, but he's also strong enough at 275 pounds to play inside in certain situations. So those are the guys that come to mind on that front. As far as, looking at free agencies, inside guys in free agency, let's see what's out there on that front. And we'll share the screen on this and you guys can take a peek. Okay, so you have David Onyemata, DJ Reader. A lot of people, I saw a couple of people today say that they think the Niners are going to be big players for John Franklin Myers, who looked great this summer practicing against the 49ers for the Broncos this summer in training camp. He's interesting. Sheldon Rankins is a tremendous pass rusher with movement ability for Houston. And he's a unique talent. I really like him. I've always liked Calais Campbell. If he wants to finish his career here, that would be an interesting name for sure. I might re-sign Jordan Elliott just because you got to have some guys up front and you can't go and just buy all new players up front. Kevin Givens, I think I've let walk away in free agency. So, I mean, that's, Jihad Ward's an interesting name. He's had a really interesting career where he just gets better and better and better. Kalia Davis is a free agent. Do you bring him back? So, I mean, they're going to need some pieces up front that they really like. And there's no question that they need help on their defensive line. A lot of help on their defensive line. All right. Let's hit a couple more of these. We got one more here from Tommy Huxley. He said, Tig does one thing well, gives up touchdowns. I actually think he steps up and run support and has some pretty good hits. I mean, he can hit. He can step up and he can hit. Coverage-wise, it's a little bit of hit and miss. But I think I kind of like Brown as more of almost like a sub-package player. But I think the better to me, the long-term safety combo is probably Siegel and Mustafa. Siegel's got the coverage ability. Mustafa's got the hitting ability. They're interchangeable. They both can run. They're both physical. I think those are your starters there. And the other guys would be backups, including Jair. Couple more thoughts before we bolt for the door. We should tell you that the Krug Show is brought to you by Habbas Law. Thanks to Habbas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Omar and Tarek Habbas are great guys. And basically, if you've been injured and you want to win, there's only one call to make. And that's Habbas Law. 1-800-INJURED. Visit them on the web at habbaslaw.com. Habbas Law, they will fight to make it right. Thanks to Habbas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. Once again, my dad was an attorney. My brother's a judge. My sister is a attorney. Had nothing but attorneys in my family. And I'll tell you, having a good attorney is the difference between success and failure. So if you need a good attorney, you've been hurt in an accident and you need to get insurance companies to stop playing games and actually cut you the check, Habbas Law. Habbas Law. 1-800-INJURED. They will fight to make it right. Thanks to Habbas Law for being a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. All right. That's going to do it for us. We're 2 hours in, one to go for an hour, went for two. Join me tonight at 6 o'clock on KMBR for Niners Nightly. The great John Chapman's going to stop by, and we'll get his review of the 49ers loss in Seattle and how he thinks they ought to map out their future. Those were a few thoughts on free agency, on the draft upcoming, and on the roster. Tomorrow is a big day. We will be down in the South Bay. Lynch and Shanahan will speak to the media, and we'll get some answers on probably the defensive coordinator and how they view their defeat, how they view reshaping their roster, and what challenges lie ahead. We might find out if there's any news or reshuffling or restructuring of the coaching staff or front office. It's all coming tomorrow. Anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to all of you guys. Thanks for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of.